and welcome. This podcast is brought to you by the Inner Healing Academy. And today's topic is consciousness and how we can raise our levels of consciousness. I'm Dr. Kim Benson, and my guest is Dr. Shelley Evans. We're both doctors of natural medicine, so we're very much going to be coming to this topic from the holistic field of health. So welcome, Dr. Shelley. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello, it's so wonderful to be here sharing some ideas with you and the Inner Healing team.
Exactly. I mean, the time is just so ripe for a discussion about consciousness. You know, right now with everyone being so worried with COVID, some people are losing their jobs, children being prevented from going to school, and all kinds of stresses and strains on people. And it's only natural, isn't it, for people to feel fearful, become panic-stricken at times. So we need to have tools at our disposal to be able to deal with these stresses.
Yeah, we really need to be able to regroup and come from that still point where we make decisions based on clarity, where we have strong discernment. And understanding consciousness really is so empowering. And what happens when you're just drug along in the big machine that's called mainstream media, capturing everybody's, not just their attention, but making them believe things simply by repeating it year after year, day after day on every form of commercial, every TV program. So certainly understanding consciousness just helps us reset into our heart, where our brain and our heart and our gut are aligned and coherent.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up about the media. I mean, it's just incessant, isn't it? The stream of fear coming to us from the TV set, on the radio, billboards, it just seems to be wherever you turn. Even notices in shops and things can start a kind of a panic within you. So we are really and truly bombarded more than ever before. So definitely this conversation is necessary right now. So what can we actually do you think, Dr. Shelley?
The really important thing is to know how to connect to your own inner source energy, not giving away your autonomy, not giving away your own authority. The great creator gave everybody this divine wisdom, and so many people have been entrained or conditioned to believe somebody in a lab coat is just going to give them the answers, and they become fearful of making their own decisions. So I would love for us today just to help people regain their own autonomy, regain their own sovereignty, so that they can stand and know within their own heart what is right for them individually.
I think that's a great point, because when we know on a deep heart level the way forward, and we know the right decision when we're having to make some major decision, when we know in our heart that what we're doing is right, and we've got that clarity, then we can move forwards with confidence and purpose. Whereas right now, I feel a lot of people have lost that sense of their own innate wisdom, which, as you say, really comes from the heart. And they've kind of devolved that responsibility to perhaps politicians or scientists or the pharmaceutical companies, whoever it might be, to tell them what is best for them and the way forwards. So we do really need to get back to basics here and try to become attuned to what's in our own hearts and know for ourselves clearly the way forwards.
Well, just think of this from a medical perspective. What happens when you give your power away? Your immune system takes a dive. If we understand the happiness molecules like serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin, these kinds of things, how do we create that within our own body? These are all our natural strength that builds our immune system, as opposed to feeling powerless and just having to go along with some great big old steamroller called government choices on our behalf. I mean, it's it's so heart-wrenching. I can hardly bring myself to express, kind of what the families are going through when the government will tell you that they can give your child the authority to jab themselves instead of listening to their parent and the loving guidance out of their own home. But really, the bottom line is understanding consciousness is very similar to understanding light. We can understand it as light. And so what happens when people feel lighter in their body? They feel healthier and stronger, and they're more willing to say no when something is not right for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess it really is down to becoming conscious of what you're thinking and doing. Many times we're going around unconsciously, following orders or just out of habit doing things. And we need to really stop and be conscious about the thoughts that we're allowing to come into our minds and the actions that follow from those thoughts. So I guess what we need here are some tools, aren't they?
Yeah.
Tools to help us to become conscious of our thinking, first of all. What do you think we can do?
Well, for sure. I mean, we all know about Eckhart Tolle and the being present. So anybody can certainly access those. But if we just understand consciousness expressed as light, this is the seen and the unseen, the known and the unknown. Our return to full consciousness is the very definition of our immune system. But it's so fascinating because it's also talking about repairing fractionated timelines and repairing the human psyche. And look at how devastating and fractionated not just our home, our community, but also the human psyche has been. And so, yes, to answer that, I would say getting fractal, which is nestable. This is negentropic. This is organization. Think entropy. That's chaos. We want to move out of chaos back into self-organized, harmonic inclusiveness. And this harmonic, just say the word harmony and you're going to feel lighter. The more harmonics in our heart is the very definition of our immune system. So perhaps we could discuss, how to become harmonically inclusive and really what that means, just as a starter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess, just majoring on the practicality of it all, as you mentioned there, Eckhart Tolle, about being present in the now, becoming aware of each moment. That's very grounding. That brings you back to reality and consciousness. So that's a great tool.
Well, it really is. And then we can add to it something like compassion. Poetically put, the physics of consciousness relates to a plasma vortex that forms in this net, Indra's net. This is the capacity of one jewel to reflect the light of another jewel from the edge of infinity. What are we saying? We're saying, join together, people, help each other. This naturally creates this sense of compassion. There are so many groups all throughout Canada that have joined under this, somebody just putting out an idea that they want to help each other. And now friends of mine were telling me about this last night, how they gathered all these donations, and they've got people that are saying, hey, I have a semi truck, I can haul all this stuff out to BC and help all the people afflicted by the floods and so on. So really another aspect is just take it upon yourself to become a leader. You don't have to lead the whole world. Take one small little community. Do one small act of what is it, Kim? What was it? The kindness. What was that? Acts of kindness.
Acts of kindness, just serving other people, giving and being outward looking. And I know that when you do get into those fearful states, it becomes all about you, which is understandable and very natural. But one way to get out of that is actually to think of others. It's a way of just breaking the spell in a little way that you can now project outwardly instead of being just sort of overwhelmed by this fear mentality. So service to others and thinking of others is definitely helpful. And I think meditation as well, I know some people are more experienced with that than others, but it doesn't have to be this big complicated thing, and it doesn't have to be an hour a day or anything like that. Simply just getting quiet, still, for even 5 minutes if you can. I know people lead very busy lives at times, but if you can find 5 minutes early in the morning or before you go to bed or your lunch break, 5 minutes to completely quieten your mind. Try and switch off your thinking. You'll find even 5 minutes is a long time if you're not used to this, but don't worry, just try it. You can set your alarm if you like so that you don't go on beyond that, but just try and reach a very still point where you are not thinking about anything. And you will realize, if you can reach that point, that that is the point of power. Everything springs from that still point. It enables you to kind of take a step back and look at things with a different perspective. And you'll be able to see things as all drama in a way, running around this still point, almost like a whirlwind around that still point in the middle there. And your job is really to stay in the center and not get caught up in the whirlwind. We can see the whirlwind, we know it's there. We'll do what we can, but emotionally don't get caught up in it, because it doesn't help if you do. It'll just take you back into panic and fear. So trying to have just a few moments of stillness in your day, I think that is really helpful too.
I think that's really fantastic, Kim. But we'll come back to harnessing the whirlwind. This is a special technique for people that have a real challenge with trying to get into that still point. So instead, we let it be our power. But if we are going to talk meditation, we could say, you could just simply set an intention and set your attention to creating this observer effect that has been demonstrated for years to manifest an environment of your own choosing. But how many of us actually harness this capacity that we have? We get scattered, we become fearful, and then we throw everything up in the air and crawl into a corner, seek somebody that can set it right. I mean, and then there goes your autonomy and your power all over again. You've just thrown it all out the window again. So let's harness that. Let's say, okay, how do we really want to see something like world peace? It doesn't need to be grand, but just take a moment to feel it. And this could be your meditation. Just take a moment to set an intention. Have you clarified even what you want? I mean, think it through. Take 5 minutes to really think and feel it through. And that in itself could be your meditation.
Yeah. So interesting that you mentioned there the observer effect. It may be that there are some listeners not quite up to date with that. Can you expand on that a little bit for us?
Well, the observer effect is something that came about because we discovered we really actually needed double-blind experiments, because what happened was it was demonstrated that the belief of whatever the research scientist was expecting is exactly what manifests. So there's better physics and there's better science to explain this now, but what it basically boils down to is if you can see a hint, if you can find an indicator that is, let me give you an example. Let's say you're driving down the road and you want to believe in, world peace. And so you're going to notice the billboards that support that. When you're talking, you're going to naturally gravitate to the conversations that back that up. It's like you can prove anything that you believe in. There's proof for anything. So choose what you want to believe in and then look for the proof. It's that act of looking for the proof, because the proof will show itself to you. And that strengthens your belief system. This does bring another important point, that is, I don't want to go down a wrong rabbit hole here. However, if we're going to look at belief systems, why have people believed in something as pervasive, as the mainstream media? Just look at those beliefs. Where did it come from? did you ever stop to catch a thought and say, hey, is that really my thought? Will that thought actually take me to become the person that I want to be? Does that thought lead me to a goal that I actually am aligned with in my heart? And so we can be discerning and willfully choose. It takes a little bit of a practice to slow down those thoughts so that you're not already, off on a tangent following something, but with a little bit of practice. Some people will tell you it's going to take 45 days, but come on, even the first day, you're going to create more light in your being, more light in your awareness, more light in your emotional body, your mental body, your spiritual body. And it's a snowball in a beautiful direction, a domino effect in a beautiful direction.
Yeah. So the power of our intention and attention is a real thing, as demonstrated by science, the double slit experiment, as you mentioned. This is a real thing. It's hard for people to take in because they can't see these waves of energy that are everywhere in the cosmos. Because we are such visual creatures, then we tend to not pay much attention to it. But it's all that the unmanifest can ultimately become manifest, and the experiments that have been done throughout the ages have shown, especially in the field of quantum mechanics, quantum physics, have shown that where we put our intention, attention, where we focus, that has a great bearing on what is manifested in our lives. So when we get into that fear and panic stage and we're tending to think negatively, then we're actually setting up a kind of self-defeating circular loop, because what we are focusing on is then going to reappear again. And it's just this destructive circle of energy floating around us, as it were. So what we need to do is to break free of that and to raise the level of our consciousness so as to see a better outcome that we want for ourselves. And this is all based on science. This can be done. It takes practice, but it can be done. You can actually manifest the life that you want.
Yes, and we become self-reliant. Then we begin to trust ourselves. And this trust, this self-reliance, oh my gosh, that goes such a long way to building your own strength, the strength of your immune system, yes, but the strength of your ability to then create and manifest exactly what you want. Sickness is being cut off from the light. This is a break in human connection to the larger order of the cosmos. This is what is the opposite of fractality. And so anything we can do to restore light in our body, and we know our body is not just physical, it's emotional, mental, spiritual, and so on.
Yeah.
And so we could talk too a little bit about how to create those wonderful happiness molecules like dopamine, serotonin, some of the ones, oxytocin, some of the ones that I mentioned earlier. And also, what are the symptoms of being deficient in that? We really just want to empower people, give them the capacity and the tool to, in this very moment, listening to us right now, feel lighter. There's your measuring stick. How light do you feel in this moment? When you're faced with a challenge, how light do you feel when you're trying to solve that problem? If you're feeling down and beaten, let's just give you a different tool to process the challenge with.
Yeah. So maybe if we can encourage people to observe their thoughts instead of just allowing them to come and go and do as they will, but you actually be in charge of them, observe them. And any thought that comes into your mind that is negative, that is not bringing you peace, just allow that thought to pass through your mind and try not to become attached to it. Just see it as like a wave, because that's what it is. A thought is basically a wave of energy that's passing through your mind and registering there. So just allow it to pass through like you would allow a wave in the bath or anything to pass over your body.
This is really us becoming the phoenix rising from the ashes. This is really about educating ourselves. And then we can allow that to be reflected in kind of the education system in our community or in our family or whatever. But this education system, I love quoting Plato. According to Plato, we must elicit a response from the soul because it reminds us of the higher planes, and that's who we really are. So it's really all about remembering who we really are. You're not that beaten down person that has to comply with everything something outside of you is saying. Mm-hmm. So really, becoming coherent and aligning your thoughts and your actions. Yeah, go ahead.
In control is what I'm saying. Yeah, one with becoming control, and going back to the thoughts, getting in control of your thoughts, and don't hold on to thoughts that don't empower you. Don't follow those thoughts down the rabbit hole that they take you down. Just let them come and go. And when you become adept at this practice, you'll find it easier and easier over time to refrain from attaching to negative thoughts. So that's a tool that we can pass on to you. Another thing I think is really helpful when you are feeling panicky is to put on some very relaxing music. Music just washes over your soul. Do you find that, Shelley?
Oh, we all know how true that is. And you don't that requires no effort other than picking the song you want, because we know that will take us into a place far removed from the troubles.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful way to break that habitual thought that has to follow the trajectory of some problem, dragging you down some deep, dark tunnel. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Mm-hmm. What a great idea.
Now, of course, in all of this, we're not saying that a person's problems are going to disappear. The problems are still going to be there. But if we can get ourselves aligned more on this higher consciousness level, it will give us a greater clarity and a greater assuredness to be able to deal with the problems more effectively. Would you say that's the case?
Well, sure it is, because, these personal consequences, personal perceptions, they're all based on personal interpretation. So really what we want to do is unlearn the body's response to trauma, because trauma is the earliest definition of trauma was that it's a dissociative response where the experience is so overwhelming that you just shove it up, store it in a different part of your mind, a different part of your being. And so then it isn't integrated. So how can you ever birth light out of it, as opposed to, facing a challenge, but then you can birth light from it? That's two completely different pathways.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So we do need that space and that clarity to be able to effectively approach, the issues that are facing us each day, and even more so now with the days that we're living in.
So, absolutely. And using your own strength-based therapy. What are you already good at? That's what you rely on. People already with an inclination to music. That's a natural response, mm-hmm. right? But everybody has their own strengths, their mm-hmm. own confidences, their own areas where they can achieve this vitality and vigor in their body. But it takes actually making the choice to do that for yourself, to be your own champion. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that you are self-reliant, so you can rely on yourself to be there for you.
Yeah, and I think it's getting to that place where you do know this is possible. Mm-hmm. A lot of people just feel disempowered to the state that they feel nothing they can do can possibly solve the problems. But that is beautiful. So true.
Sorry, Kim, go ahead.
Yeah, just saying that is so untrue, but it is a common theme that people bring up.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is we absolutely can rewire the nervous system. The plasticity of the human brain is a fantastic place to just begin, because this rewiring of a nervous system has been done by you probably countless times in your own life. So, this is just something that we can do. These circuits in the brain can be rewired to work for you.
Mm-hmm. And again, there's the science there to back that up now conclusively. We know that neurons can, join up again. They can repair, new ones can build, and the science is there that shows this is the case. So no one needs to feel like things are impossible and nothing's ever going to change. Things will change when you yourself realize and know deeply that they can and that you can take control. But you do have to put in a little bit of work. You do have to shut off the TV.
There's a good suggestion. That's the best suggestion.
You do have to get out in nature, take some deep breaths. Yeah, so there's action is needed.
Yeah. Because, conversely, a client's body, just a listener's body, their nervous system can get stuck in the state of red alert after trauma, where the gate simply doesn't shut, and that message, that signal coming from your brain does not shut off. So it's a whole, what did the grandmothers used to say? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Let's get on it. Let's make some good choices today in this moment.
Yeah, I guess if we can leave people just believing that it is possible, that they don't always have to go into the fear and the drama and the panic. It is possible to break free of that. And we've mentioned a few tools today. I think another one that's just come to mind is to laugh. Put on some, comedy program, something that makes you laugh. The joy.
That is so good. That's funny, because in my research, I was just looking for the frequency. That moment where laughter erupts out of your body. That's a specific frequency, and it's that release that really brings the healing, and it can bring an aha moment. It can bring this blissful kind of kundalini jolt through your body that is an instant pickup. So that's a good one to share.
Yeah, but the bottom line is just simply knowing it is possible, and then that will give you hope and hopefully desire to try out some of the things that we've shared today to raise your consciousness, and hopefully you will begin to see the benefits of that. So do you have any thoughts in closing, Dr. Shelley?
Yes, I would just say, why don't we just be curious about our thoughts? Why don't we just be curious and investigate kind of where they're coming from, and are they leading us to where we want to go? If not, let's kind of take control of the reins. So that just curiosity about our own thoughts is a very light way of looking at it. We don't have to get into some deep, dark research project. Just be curious about your own thoughts. Be curious about your emotions. Take a look around and see, where are they really coming from? Do they really belong to you? And do you want to amplify them or minimize them?
Yeah, just be conscious of them. Be conscious, yeah. Okay, well, thank you ever so much, Dr. Shelley. That was great. And hopefully that's been a help to some people who have listened to us today. And we'll have to have this chat again sometime. And yeah, we'll organize that, and we'll get together another time and have another chat. How's that?
Fantastic. I'll look forward to speaking with you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. For news and views, visit our website and subscribe to our newsletter at innerhealingacademy.com. Health without pills or syringes. We have courses and coaching available.